Hi. Okay, let's go ahead and do a little bit more talking. Okay, dokie. So we need to build our audience, right? This is something that stands in the way for so many service providers, for so many coaches. I mean, you're excellent at what you do, you're brilliant at what you do. But without an audience to share what you have, you're dead in the water, right? We're stuck. If we don't have it's one thing to be really fantastic at something, but it's kind of like if you don't have an audience, it's sort of basically like shouting all your brilliance into an empty room. Okay. So we need to get that audience. We need to be kind of pulling people into our ecosystem, into our sphere of influence. Okay. We know this. Now, we've got a few different ways to do this, of course. There's a whole bunch of things I'm sure that we can think about. We can pay for advertising, right? So we can pay to reach all those eyeballs. But this can be very expensive if we are not really solid on exactly all of the pieces that convert for our specific business. There's a lot of different moving parts. I mean, we've gone through and kind of done some further kind of narrowing down in terms of our niche and looking at our offer and looking at, reaching out all these other kinds. As we can see there's several moving parts. So if you go ahead and start paying ads before you have things really clear on what actually converts from an organic perspective, it's like throwing money out the window. Okay, so we want to get solid first. Okay, oh, and I have to say, advertising can be absolutely fantastic. We just want to get solid organically first. Okay, all right, so we can mine our existing networks, right? And this is a fantastic thing. This is great. But even the most connected of us has a limited number of contacts, right? We only have so many. We can borrow other people's audiences, right? So we can post in other people's groups. We can go in other people's podcasts. We can do kind of various things. But as we know, we're limited by what they allow. Then there's if you happen to be booked or if you happen to be allowed to host, etc. There's limitations for all of these things too. All right. So of course we want to build our own. But where can we find our ideal potential clients? Okay, so we've done this work. So we've done a bunch of work kind of already. We've nailed on our ideal potential client. All right, we've our niche. So we've kind of done some work there. Fortunately, now keeping that in mind, fortunately, there are Facebook groups for basically every target market under the sun. Right, and this is what we are going to look at today. So before we jump in there, I want to talk really briefly about some of the mistakes that I see being made on this piece of the puzzle. All right, so one big one is not being consistent enough. Now, as we go ahead and as we start to all of these pieces that are going to follow in terms of doing what we need to do in order to be growing our group, this is a continual and consistent effort. This is not something where we can just kind of sit back and go, my work is done. The Facebook algorithm is just going to kind of solve everything for me and it's all going to be fine. Okay, that's not how it works. We want to be consistently on a daily basis doing these pieces, doing our work here to keep on getting people again into our ecosystem. Okay, all right. Another piece on this is not being direct enough. Okay, sometimes people they get a little bit vague, they get a little bit kind of like they just want to post and then they don't really do anything after that point. We need to get bold here. Now that's part of the reason why we did that painless exercise. All right, you've done that. You've gone through that piece already. You've done it already, right? Each and every piece, we want to do it in a sequential order, so that way we really can kind of add on to what we're doing. Of course, we're okay. Good. So you want to make sure that you are you've gone through, you've done that. And one of the important things that happens from that, I think, is that the first piece of that is really going through the pains that our ideal clients are going through, what our clients are doing. It's a tough spot. They're stuck in that stuckness. All right. They are in a place that they don't want to be. What they want is the outcomes that you provide. Right now, one of the really fantastic things about going through that exercise is that it helps to kind of call up a certain amount of that discomfort. We do not want our clients, our potential clients, our leads to be stuck in that place anymore. Right. So we need to be bold. We need to just know and appreciate so much the fact that this community, this space that we have built and that we are continuing to build and that we are continuing to nurture, this is their home. This is where they get these problems solved once and for all. Okay, this is where they are well on their way to those aspirational points, those aspirational places where they need and want to be. Okay, so we really need to be direct. We really need to be going out there and we have to be kind of actively involved in this process. Okay, it's not enough to hang back and just kind of hope that takes care of itself. All right, so it's another one of the mistakes that I see. Um, Another one is not being specific enough. So I think that one of the things to remember as we are, we're going out there and we've done this work on this niche work, is that sometimes what happens is that we get a little bit uncomfortable. We get uncomfortable like getting too specific. And so what we do is we kind of go, I'm going to try to keep it sort of vague. I'm going to try to keep things a little bit more open. I think what's going to happen if you do that is that you are going to find that things do not deliver in the way that you're hoping to, and that eventually you're going to come around and go, yeah, I need to narrow in a little bit more. Okay, this is a mistake that I see kind of gone on an ongoing basis. So it can be scary, it can be hard, it can feel weird to go in and be really super specific. But as time goes on, you're probably going to find that that actually ends up resonating more clearly than being super vague. Okay, all right. And then I'm going to back up. I almost went ahead of myself there. The other piece is being task oriented rather than results oriented. So, to give a bit of context here, one question that I end up getting quite a bit is people asking, okay, well, in how many groups should I post today? How many groups should I join? I mean, I am going to give an indication on a number of groups to join and stuff like that to give you as a baseline, but it ends up looking at that as being like a task. They want to kind of check through that box as opposed to being results oriented. All right, so we want to be results oriented. We want to know that our group is growing every day. So it's not so much about how many places that you post, okay? It's more about looking at how many new leads did I get today? How many new people did I get joining my group today? Right? So we want to be thinking about the results, not so much the tasks. Okay. Okay. And then that last thing, again, I mentioned it already, but I think it bears mentioning again, wanting to rely on the Facebook algorithm to grow your group organically for you. Okay, so we did that work already in terms of naming your Facebook group and positioning it in a way so that when your ideal client sees it, they're going to go, oh yeah, that's me. I should totally join this place. We have done that work, but the thing is that we cannot just rely on people just stumbling upon it. All right, we need to be a lot more actively involved. All right. So the big idea here is that this is a recruitment process. Okay, this is a active effort process. This is not a build it and they will come exercise. Okay, that's just not how this works. Okay, so we have to go out there and we have to actively participate in this process. And we have to know that as we go along, this is something that we are going to continue to work on. As you get it more systematized and you really start to kind of see those things that really click for you, it's going to become a lot smoother. But as you go, you're just going to have to kind of work out those places as you go. All right. I think sometimes it happens as well is that people, in addition to not necessarily being direct enough and bold enough, I think that sometimes people feel a little bit weird about actively recruiting people into their group from the thought that this means that these are people who were in other groups and then you're trying to get them to come into your group. So just a little sort of thought on that. So as we know, this is, you've got your group, okay? You've got your group, right? We're going to put that in green. Green means go. Green is good. Okay, so you've got your space here. And then of course, there are a lot of groups all over the everything, all over the everywhere. There's lots of them. There are, who even knows, millions of Facebook groups? I don't know, lots. There's lots of Facebook groups out there, okay? Lots of them. You can see that very well. Lots of groups out there. The thing is that when it comes to your ideal potential client, there are a lot of your potential ideal clients, of course, in other people's Facebook groups and other Facebook groups out there. And that's fine because there is crossover in terms of other people's Facebook groups and your Facebook group. There's a lot of crossover there. where people can really benefit. Maybe they can benefit in some particular way in this group over here, but they can also greatly benefit from where you happen to be as well. They may have joined some other group thinking that it was the perfect fit, and then it turns out that it's not. So what we are doing is we are going ahead and yes, are we recruiting from other places? For sure. We are recruiting to get people into our groups from other places all around the space, all around there, and that's fine. That is something that's absolutely fine, because what we want to do is we want to make sure that we are solving people's problems. What you create in the space that you are creating here in this home, you are solving problems there. And I need you to be so intimately familiar with that and so confident in that and so solid in that, that you know that inviting someone to come and join you in your community, it's a gift. It's a really great thing, because now you know that they are in good hands because they are in your hands. And for you, it's all about getting that problem solved. Okay? Lots of spaces all over the place, all over the internet, all over the Facebook, all over the everywhere. There's a lot of places, and in the home that you are creating that you love and value and you know is such a wonderful place because of all the value that you happen to drive, you want people to come there. Okay, it's a great thing that you happen to be doing for people. You're doing people a solid by telling them and letting them know about the space that you're creating. All right, so as we start navigating our way around Facebook and starting to recruit people into our own space, you have a download. What I'm going to do here is I am going to share with you the download right now. If you haven't already downloaded it, please pause this video and go ahead and download that, print it, do whatever you're going to do. And then we will go ahead and do this together. We're sharing. Here we are. All right. Okay, good. Okay, so essentially what I want to do, the exercise that I want you to kind of like map out for yourself right now as you start to launch into the next steps. Now, we talked at the top about the importance of the fact that you know who it is that you're reaching out to now. You know who your potential ideal client is. You know who your niche is, right? So you want to make sure that you're writing this down. You're keeping this clearly in mind as you're moving forward. Okay, so in that top left-hand block, you want to write down who it is that you are trying to reach. Are you trying to reach parents? Are you trying to reach corporate executives? Are you trying to reach mechanics? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Now, write this down so that you keep on coming back to this truth for yourself and for your business, okay? So write down, who is it that you are trying to reach? Okay, now, as we talked about a little bit earlier, there's every kind of Facebook group out there under the sun. All right. So now what I want you to do is I want you to think about, maybe you know them already. So maybe you can just think about this in terms of 10 groups, 10 X groups that you are going to join. And of course, that X being where your ideal clients happen to reside. So maybe you are, maybe what that means is that this is 10 health and wellness groups. This is 10 entrepreneurship groups. This is 10 leadership groups. This is 10 speed knitting groups, whatever. Whatever it is that you know who your ideal clients are. And now you want to go ahead and join those groups where they happen to reside. If maybe you are really looking for people who are interested in finance and they are based in the United States, maybe you are, any number of things, or they're based in California, or any number of things. Okay, so just be really clear on that, and now start looking to see the kind of groups that you can join and start joining them. So what you're going to do is you can go into, when you go into Facebook, whether you're in your app or in mobile, you can go into the group section and you can start doing searches. You don't even have to go in the group section. You can just go into the search bar in Facebook. And then you're going to enter your search term, hit enter. So say you say something like, you can say something, say you can keep it really broad just to get a really good perspective at first. And you can say something like mechanics. All right, so type mechanics in there, hit enter. It'll give you a bunch of things like searches that were related to this, businesses that were related to this. And it'll also give you the option to select groups. And you're going to start to see all of the people, all of the groups rather, that are related to that topic, whatever keyword it is that you happen to search for. All right, maybe you are searching for what was I going to say? Yeah, mechanics is an example. You can be searching for any number of things: parenting, motherhood, uh, so many different things that you can potentially be searching for. People who are interested in intermittent fasting, engineers, any number of things. Okay, so start looking at what you can see as 10 groups that you can join, and start looking at and start to kind of navigate your way around. And I want you to do that today. Okay, so you're going to go ahead, pause me now, go ahead, take a look at some of those search terms and just start joining groups. All right, don't feel like you need to limit yourself. You don't have to limit yourself. Just go ahead and join a whole bunch of groups. There's no limit to it. You can always leave a group at any point if you don't feel like it didn't end up kind of resonating. It didn't end up being a really good fit. That's totally fine. You can just leave later. Okay, it's not a big deal. This isn't a big thing. You are most likely going to be prompted with the 3 questions. Go ahead. You can start seeing how other people, the kinds of questions that they happen to ask as well in their groups. All right, so go ahead, do that, and then just join those groups. All right, and now make sure that you actively kind of go through the process and actually execute on it right now. Okay. Now, one of the things that we're going to be talking about in one of the next videos is that we're going to look at ways to engage in these spaces to start recruiting people into your group. Okay. So one of the things that you are going to be doing is you're going to be sharing your link. Now, one of the things that you need to know as well is how to share that at all. All right. So if you go to your group and you go into, sometimes it looks like a little shield icon, sometimes it looks like a manage button, but you want to grab the link for your group. All right. So sometimes when you have the option to share, and then you can just click copy oftentimes, and then it'll give you that URL. So that's something that's really good to just have on your clipboard, so that way, like on your phone or on your desktop, so that you know that you've got that handy all the time, so you can be sharing it as you need to. But one of the things that you don't ever want to do is you don't just want to share drop your link and kind of go. So you want to have some copy around that. So for example, when you are communicating the fact that you have this group and you're wanting to share it, again, we're going to go into these steps a little bit more in a later video, but just so you have your mind around it as you're looking through and you're looking to see how people are engaging in these groups. One of the things that you can say is you can say something like, I would love for you to join XYZ group, so the name of your group, and then you can say why it's relevant. So you can say, this is a community where we solve ABC problem. This is where we talk about ABC. All right, so this can be, I would love to invite you to X parenting community. This is where we talk about how we can connect in a more harmonious way with our children. Something like that. Okay, so something that is relevant, that is something that is going to help to pique interest and to help your ideal clients to be able to see that this is something that is a really good fit for them. Okay, so these are the kinds of things that you're going to do. Now, the next piece that I want you to think about there, so go ahead and in the share link box, go ahead and write out what you can see as being something that would be relevant there, and make sure that you have found the link so that you know how to share the URL for your group. Okay, so make sure that you have that there so you've got it handy and you'll be able to share it later on. Now, what I want you to think about is I want you to think about keywords. We're not going to be doing anything with this quite yet, but I want you to think about right now, what are some of the keywords that your potential ideal client might have included in their profile that would help you to identify them? Okay, so this can be something like maybe they would have in there something like author or engineer. Maybe they would have leader. Maybe they would have coach. Any number of things like counselor, psychology. What kind of keywords do you see in there? So what can happen sometimes is people can say something like, well, I'm really, what I am interested in is mostly parents. And most parents don't have mom as a keyword that would be associated with their profile in some way. And that's totally fine. But what you can be thinking about is you can be thinking about things like, well, are most of my ideal clients engineers? And maybe they're like they're a mom and they're also an engineer, or they're a mom and they're also an author, or something like that, if it happens to be relevant. Okay, so just think about what some of these keywords can potentially be that your ideal clients would identify with. All right, we're going to be using this in a later video to be finding more people that we can potentially be connecting with. Okay, so just think around how you can potentially be using that and what some of those keywords would be. All right. Okay, back to me. All right, so let's just pop back over here. What happened to my notes? Here we are. Okay. So we're going to go ahead. You're going to go ahead and do that. Start working on all that, pull all those pieces together. Now, again, we're going to talk about how to navigate around the groups. And we're going to think about it from a couple of different perspectives, because some groups allow for promo. They allow you to promote your business. And sometimes they allow you to promote your business right as a post or in a specific thread. So there's ways around that. And then there's also ways that you can be engaging in these groups that don't allow promo. All right. So there's different ways that you can be doing that as well. And that can help you to be recruiting and engaging with people in these groups that don't allow for promo. All right. So for now, we just want to get into the groups where your ideal clients hang out. Right. And just to kind of just so you know as well, go ahead and join a bunch. I'm suggesting that you join 10. But sometimes admins don't necessarily approve people right away. Sometimes, they, for whatever reason, they don't necessarily do that. One thing I would recommend is make sure that you're joining groups that are a bit bigger. Okay, so we're not looking at groups that have 100 members or 500 members or something like that. You're wanting to focus on groups that have 5,000 members or more. This is what you want to be focusing on. As you start to get a little bit more streamlined with your efforts, you can adjust that a little bit in terms of the size. But for right now, we're looking for groups that are a bit larger because they are most likely going to have kind of more going on and there's more of your potential clients right within them. Okay, so take a look at there. One other thing that you can consider as well is that consider joining groups where your ideal clients are likely to hang out that do allow promo. So this might require a little bit of kind of thinking outside the box here a little bit. So say, for example, that your ideal clients are authors, speakers, parents, etc. Would it be reasonable to assume that a percentage of your target market, maybe they're also in leadership or entrepreneurship groups, for example? Many entrepreneurship groups, they allow lots of promo. Okay, they allow that, and that happens to be fine. And it could be a way for you to get in front of your ideal clients in a roundabout way. All right. So think about some of those things so that maybe it doesn't happen to be super direct. Like, so maybe you happen to really want to just work with mechanics who happen to work in California. Okay, fantastic. Maybe there are mechanics in California groups out there. I'm using a hyper-specific example just to make a point. So maybe it wouldn't necessarily, you join all the mechanics in California groups that you potentially can, but maybe you also join some groups that are just specific to California for some reason. All right. And maybe they happen to be, about like engineering or engineers in or cars in or, other kinds of things that will make it so that you can still get to them, but it isn't hyper specific on exactly what your niche is. All right. So sometimes you might just need a little bit of creativity around that. Okay. Okay. So go ahead and jump in. So again, the big idea here that I'm wanting you to really start preparing yourself with is that this is a recruitment process. And it is also an active process. All right. So think back to some of those mistakes that I was talking about. This is not, when you are thinking about how we are going to build your group, this is not something that we are going to just be able to rely on the organic side of things forever. All right. So that's going to be one piece of it, but really the biggest growth is really going to come from your active effort. All right. Okay. So for your homework, make sure that you comment done when you have joined 10 groups where your ideal clients hang out or where you suspect they hang out. All right. So jump in, join at least 10. All right. And bonus points, share the groups that you are joining in the comments. All right. So go ahead, take a look. I'm super excited to see what everybody is doing and what that looks like for you, what all these community spaces look like for you. And yeah, see you in the next video. Okay.